What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is lesson number 10, and the last time that I can do that on my hands, 10. So, my thoughts do not mean anything. That is the lesson today from A Course in Miracles. However, the way we're looking at it today is cognitive drought warning. So, cognitive drought warning. What? Well, your thoughts don't mean anything, right? My thoughts don't mean anything. We're returning to this a little bit. You'll find it at different stages throughout these workbook lessons and the way that the course does it. My thoughts do not mean anything. Huge, 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 right? Very big. Why is this so big? Well, we're returning to this idea that we don't know what things are for. Things are usually anchored in the past. A lot of what we think is illusion. So if your thoughts don't mean anything and you're understanding that the world around you has been constructed as and is the product of your mind, whoa, then what's everything for? I don't know. This is where we get to make meaning, but from a place of peace. I want to say from a better place of peace, but place of peace is relative, right? It can be better, it can be heaven or hell, depending on what you want to make it. But this is really, considering all of the interpretations that we place upon things that we think about, right? How many of them are we consciously choosing? How many of them do we get to choose? Do we give ourselves the opportunity to choose instead of just running towards them because that's the thing that we just know it is? That's the thing that we know they are. That's the thing that we know, period, right? It's almost routine. It's a routine response that we have to certain situations. So we just go, yep, that's the thing. That's what it is. That's it. That is how it is. Are we sure we want to pick some of them? So understanding that my thoughts don't mean anything, largely because of the past. So, envisioning our thoughts, and we do meditation sometimes. So in a lot of meditations, they'll talk about envisioning your thoughts as clouds. I've found it productive to do, to envision your thoughts as waves, right? Not huge ones. Like we're not talking about surfing waves. I'm just talking about little ones, right? Like in a lake, let's say a lake, because those are the bodies of water closest to me. So I'm familiar with those. Or like small waves in an ocean, for example. Just you see them rolling in. They're just thoughts that come ashore. They don't really mean anything. It's just a wave. It's just a wave. Just let them come in and go back out. Come in and go back out. We don't identify with the wave because we understand that there are so many of them in the ocean and they just come in and out, right? There's a flow to them. But for some reason, we take our thoughts and we make so much meaning out of them so that it is then difficult for us to pull back and understand that in the present moment, none of it means anything because all of it has been the construction of the ways that we've identified with ego. So if it's an ego association and this false idea of who you are, because that's really what the ego is, right? Choosing fear, choosing love is this perspective shift, this miracle, right? This instant that we get to choose differently because we see from the heart space. We see it. We see that in the world. We see that in other people. We see that right now. But this idea, my thoughts don't mean anything. It can be a really uncomfortable feeling because of all the thoughts you think. Holy, some of the thoughts we think are very important. Very important. So for them not to mean anything, that's a big deal, right? We think thoughts about our job. We think thoughts about our partners. We think thoughts about friends. We think thoughts about family, about, goals that we have, things that we want to do. So if they don't mean anything, ooh, who are we then, right? Who are we then? Which is, leaning into the beauty of a blank canvas, my friends, truly, really and truly. And this, one of the things I love about this particular lesson in the course, so lesson 10 is, there's a quote here in section 3, the very end, section 3, so it's verse 5, it says, as such, it is the prerequisite for vision. So my thoughts do not mean anything. So think about it, this is the prerequisite for vision. This is the prerequisite for vision. So the course states specifically, close your eyes for these exercises. This is section 4 of lesson 10. So close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself. Then add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. So we're getting into some really, we're getting into the good stuff. But this is really a call to release. And if this is the prerequisite for vision, understanding that our thoughts don't mean anything. Vision meaning, the way I've interpreted it is, sorry, it's like spirit going. The way I view this is, if our thoughts don't mean anything, then what we're doing is seeing through the heart space and the present moment right now. Because everything else that we bring to this moment is a story about who we are, who we should be, how we should be, what we should have, why we should have had it by now, where we should have gone, what we could have done, all of these things. So this is a very profound teaching. So I think that this is also an invitation to observe your thoughts and to consider for a moment all the interpretations that you have about the thoughts that you think, right? All of the interpretations meaning the meaning that you've made that anchors your ego in something that, I have this kind of job and it makes this kind of money. So that says this about me, right? That could go either end of the scale. You're either making too much or too little, not enough. Is there really too much? I don't think that people complain about that, but we get into this place of judging ourselves. So all of the things that make up your identity, right? Your identity, as you are in the world facing other people that you think you are. So anything that in the way I look at this for myself is the way that, what are the things that get in the way of me remembering that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, not the other way around? What are all of those things? Having a car to drive, having a job, who I think I am at the job, what that means for my identity. When people get into managerial positions, that label of manager means something. Does it? Not really. Not really. It gives you specific tasks at that job, but then when you take that out into the world, right? Like, I liken it to the Maya Angelou quote. Like, if I'm out at a store and I encounter somebody, I don't care if they're a manager at another place. I just care if they're, going to treat other people well and kindly in that moment. I don't care. Like, that's all identity. That's all stuff that doesn't really matter. But we make meaning of it. And this is where, sometimes we want people to see the manager in us. We want people to see that. We want people to see these things about us. So this is allowing us, these lessons specific to creativity, it's allowing us to take to view things differently and to, on the one hand, understand and validate things about people that they want validated, because it's usually not the identity of manager that someone wants validated. Someone doesn't want you to see them as a manager. Someone wants you to see them as hardworking. Someone wants you to see how much work they put into what they do. Someone wants you to understand how difficult that can be when you have to make decisions that suck, right? Like, when you have to make hard choices, when you have to, give things up. People want to be seen for those things, the times that they don't feel seen for those things, not the label. This is where we get into the identity, right? The label of manager, just to use an example. So, and this is just from friends that I've talked to over the years. And yeah, but it's like when we get into those places, we can really screw ourselves out of connections, not just to other people, but to the present moment. So we can push these things away from ourselves and say, no, forget it. Why? Because I am sure that I know what my thoughts mean. I'm sure that I do. But we first have to just give ourselves a moment to be open to the possibility, not that we've gotten it wrong, but that there's something else happening. There's another story unfolding that we may not be paying the same attention to, and that we may be paying too much attention to, right? So it's balancing this by returning to the present moment. And it's also telling too that, thinking about all of the ways that we can interpret thoughts and make meaning from them. which ones we do choose is very telling about ourselves and what we're reinforcing. What part of our own ego are we reinforcing through these thoughts? What part of our ego needs to be stroked in order for us to know who we are, right? Those are the things that we come to understand too. It's telling. It's very telling. And we don't, my thoughts don't mean anything. I can think that I know something. I can think, I see this often with merge lanes. So allow me to explain. So I don't spend a ton of time on the road driving, but it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to commute to work. So depending, right? I mean, during winter, it's a whole other ballgame. But, now we're in spring, so I'm just like, yes. But during that time, I just notice a lot of things about driving and how feelings come up and how easily it can turn into a story. So people may be driving past me and they may just see me burst out laughing. They have no idea why. It's like, because I caught myself like really, really being in my ego, being like, I know what this means and I'm mad because how dare you not recognize that merge lane, and you pull back and you're like, that is ridiculous. So, for example, with merge lanes, you make a turn. So, there's two lanes. Not everyone drives like this, but there's two lanes. So someone can turn right into a lane and then you can turn left into a lane. And then, sometimes people will turn right into the left lane. So you can't turn yet. Right. So, and you can get really hard done to and build up all these stories about how late you're going to be for this 2-second inconvenience that means absolutely nothing. That means absolutely nothing in the big picture. So, it's just an example, but my thoughts do not mean anything. That is the lesson for today, friends. So this is lesson 10. We are moving on through these workbook lessons. So let's do this. I will see you tomorrow morning, my friends. Just remember, your thoughts don't mean anything. Your thoughts don't mean anything. That's scary, I know, but we got this. We got this. I will see you tomorrow, my friends. Take care. Have a great day. Wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very well. Take care.